President Trump suggested that the U.S. could take ownership of Ukraine's nuclear power plants to help keep them safe. White House officials say the proposal was made during a phone call between Donald Trump and President Zelensky. The Ukrainian leader later said they discussed only the Zaporizhia nuclear plant, which is held by Russian forces. Paul Knott is a former British diplomat who served in both Ukraine and Russia. I asked him for his thoughts on today's meeting here in London. I think it's an important meeting and another step in the process we've seen of building up momentum to put this force in place if it's needed, if some kind of agreement can be found. I think it's also an important part of sort of showing the Russians, showing Putin that whatever happens, support for Ukraine is going to continue, and Europe is Europe, and its allies are going to continue to resist any continued aggression from Russia. And important steps have been taken this week on many levels. Of course, we've got the phone call that happened between Vladimir Putin and President Trump, but also as well between President Zelensky and President Trump, which was very important for both leaders, given their last conversation was in the Oval Office. Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's the Americans, for all the suggestions of sort of heading in different directions, are going to remain important in this process. So it's very important for Ukraine, as I think other leaders, such as Prime Minister Stan, have sort of impressed upon them to try and keep close to them and have productive relations with them. So yes, that was an important development. What do you make of this idea of the U.S. owning certain key power plants in Ukraine? I mean, President Zelensky saying they really only discussed the Zaporizhia nuclear plant, but the idea that they would be safer if owned by the U.S. I think it's a little bit odd that maybe it's his is sort of the kind of business money for most of his life. President Trump's instinct always seems to go towards kind of acquiring some kind of property in the process that. But if they were specifically talking about the Zaporizhia plant, which is currently occupied by Russia, then perhaps it's an idea worth exploring. And I think if that was as far as we could get for now, it would be a main game for Ukraine. If the Americans were running that land rather than the Russians, which, comes with obviously all kinds of dangers. So, I mean, it's not an operational plant at the moment, and it's said to take at least a few years before it could be up and running fully again anyway. Yeah, no, I don't think that's the case. But even new plants that weren't until recently operations still require quite a lot, as does I understand it, no scientists. But to keep them in a safe condition, there's still a lot that needs to happen. And yeah, I think it's fairly clear that Russians can really be trusted with that, and would be very, even if it was passed over to U.S. operation, would be not inclined to attack it at least, and you would have probably sensible people actually sort of